So THORChain is a DEX that enables you to swap Bitcoin with thousands of other cryptos, all layer one native tokens. There's no bridges or wrap tokens used, and you can do it all from within the self-custody of your own wallet. There's no KYC on THORChain. It's permissionless. THORChain's token is called Rune, spelled R-U-N-E. You don't need to own Rune or hold it in a wallet or anything like that to do a trade on THORChain. You just need your layer one tokens. That's it. But the fees are reduced from your trade and paid to the network in Rune. And that Rune yield is what goes to liquidity pools and the nodes. So there's no block rewards on THORChain. 100% of the yield is real. THORChain has another token. It's called TCY. And this token is kind of like a preferred stock. 10% of all the protocol's revenue goes towards these token holders. So you don't have to bond the tokens or put them in pools. You do have to stake them, but the yield just automatically goes to those tokens. And so if you were in the THORChain savers or lending program in the past, you have claimed some of these tokens. So make sure you claim them. If you didn't, but you want to buy them, you can. Anyone can buy these tokens. They're free trading on THORChain. To trade on THORChain, go to thorchain.com and click on swap. You'll see all the different wallets and websites you can use. You can choose whatever interface you want to use. There's a project called Regira. They're building decentralized mining on THORChain. THORChain's new smart contract layer is being rolled out as we speak. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully the next few months, they kind of are going more bigger, going more live, but it's happening right now. Speaking of Binance, if you hold Rune on a centralized exchange, you should withdraw it into self-custody because those tokens can be used to short sell Rune and drive the price down on yourself. And then once in self-custody, you can look into bonding your Rune to a node to earn some yield on it. And the more security we have, the more Rune we have bonded, that increases the ability for the network to grow, which can help drive up the Rune price. So you become an agent in your own success. There's a THORChain community Discord and Telegram group you can join, learn all about THORChain, meet other THORChans. To find the links to those, go to the Thor community account on Twitter. Guys, please repost this space. Try and get some more people, get some more eyes on this. If you're listening to the recording, repost it with your comments, questions. Love to hear from you. And these spaces are aimed towards anyone in their THORChain journey. So if you're brand new, hopefully there's something for you to pick up on. If you're an OG, hopefully we'll touch on some things that'll, you're wondering, you're curious about. And there's, for you OGs, for you people out there, node operators, bond providers, there's 2 votes going on right now. The L1 minimum swap fee, 8 basis points for 5. I'm sure Cal will have some more to say on that later. And then ADR 20. I want to say we're only 10 votes away from that moving forward. But please vote, even if you're against, it's fine. But at least vote against. And with all that said, I think we can get started. Are you up here, Patriot?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hear you.
Hey guys, I'll just go do a quick introduction of myself. Patriot Sounds, I'm an educator for THORChain. Been doing Spaces now for a little bit, and I am so glad to have the Spaces OG come join us today. This is awesome. And the thing, Cal, I want you to know, I've had people ask me, he's like, hey, where's Cal? We miss his voice. So, dude, people are really happy that you're on the stage right now. And it's an honor for me because I remember listening to you back in the day during all the crazy stuff that happened. And you were a navigating voice during those times. So it's dope as hell having you on the stage, bro.
Thank you so much. I am so glad that you guys are doing Spaces, so I don't have to do it every week anymore. Oh my god, I could actually focus on other things. But yeah, I like doing them. It's just like, oh my god, there's not enough hours in the day in the week. I'm really glad you guys can do them, and especially at like other times, because I work enough, so I'm really not trying to do these like on the weekend. And I see you guys doing them all the time. Sometimes I'll pop in for like 15 minutes or whatever, but I'm just like, damn, I don't have the time to do all this. But yeah, I'm like super glad you guys have like actually taken this on and are like just continuing on the community stuff, because I always thought it was so important doing these, and obviously like it brought just like a lot more like attention, discussion, and a better discussion because you just don't get the same vibe and stuff when you're doing like Discord or Telegram or whatever. So it's just like a lot easier to, you know, hear people's more complete opinions and all that stuff. So I think it's like really, really important.
Well, great, man. Thank you for that. Because, like, yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. Because when Paige and I started doing these, it wasn't to like, step on anyone's toes or whatever. Just like, we noticed the spaces were falling off, and like, I want you to cook. Like, I want the devs to be deving. I don't want them to be worried about doing spaces. And so, for us, it's like, whatever we can do to help take some work off your plate, so you can keep shipping and doing what needs to be done under the hood. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that helps me out like so much. Like you don't even know. And like I'm kind of doing some different stuff for Nine Realms now. So basically I've stepped into more of a product manager role. So I'm more focusing on like, all right, what are the things that we need to ship? Like what are the priorities? Like what goes in what release, like all that stuff. So I'm kind of like moving more into that. Well, I have been doing that for like a couple months now. Now that especially we have like a bunch of new devs that are stepping up and like really shipping stuff. So yeah, I just need a lot more attention on just like holding them through like all these little intricate subsystems that like maybe three people know that they exist and how they work and stuff. So just like it takes a lot more time and energy to do that. So it's really good to be able to just kind of like do more like the back office like dev stuff, and then you guys can just like focus on getting the message out there, especially when I feel like just the pace has changed a lot over the past couple of years, like so that just helps out like tremendously. So yeah, that's like pretty much like my new like role with the devs and the dev team, although it's like it always feels like I'm kind of doing the same stuff. It's just like yeah, I'm just trying to like be much more supportive and like focusing the team and prioritizing the things that we think should be prioritized.
Well, that's awesome. Well, let's get into it then. You mentioned a few new people joined New Realms. Can you talk about them, what they're doing, and then what are you project managing right now? What are you working on?
Yeah, it's mostly just like prioritization. It's like someone needs to decide like, hey, what is coming, what do we need to ship, like what do the devs need to work on. So a lot of that is working with like our integrators, like the Swapkit team, like Trust Wallet and all that. So like if there's issues, solving those issues, like failed refunds or just like whatever, all that like really boring stuff. We can go into like what's coming up in some of the next couple updates and what I think some of the issues are that we want to solve. But yeah, the new devs that we have, they're super great. Obviously, THORChain is kind of a behemoth to get used to, so it's not like people that are really used to this code base that's like very fine tuned to do what it does. And again, I'll just remind people that it's like the most complicated project in the industry, most likely, just because of just the sheer scale of it and how many of these little systems that are in place. But yeah, so I guess we can go into like some of the things that I think are priorities, like immediate priorities, and like some of the next stuff that's coming up. So
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is just like squashing some bugs, especially at my biggest gripe, which I've been trying to get done forever, which is coming in 3.10, which is the next release that we're focusing on. So I think 3.9 is rolling out next Thursday on on mainnet. So yeah, we're working on 3.10 next, which is so that's the next big priority. And in that, base outbounds is like the number one thing that I've really been trying to fix for a while. There's a bug with our base outbounds where it costs like $10 for us to like send out a base outbound, which is just totally ridiculous. And we have this floored outbound fee that's at $1, but like there's there's no realm in which base outbounds cost $10 to send out. So it's just a bug that we have to fix, and like finally have like people actually focusing on that. It's just like again these like mini little subsystems that nobody really understands. I don't understand it myself. So getting people like even just fixing like some of these little things that probably know like people do care about this stuff, but like I've never really heard anyone talk about it besides like myself and the Swapkit team. Even just getting this little stuff just takes like quite significant like time and effort to like find it and actually like get the stuff tested and stuff. So That's one of the big things. And also just like outbound fees in general. I want to be doing a little more work just around making sure we're super competitive on outbound fees. So we have this system called the dynamic outbound fee multiplier. So to run through exactly how the outbounds work on the chain. So we have this Bifrost that's looking at all these chains, and they're saying, okay, this is what the gas fees are on Bitcoin, this is what the gas fees are on Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. And it takes that number and then multiplies it by 1.5, because right off the bat, we want to be making sure that our outbound transactions, like when you do a swap, when THORChain sends you the funds, that's the outbound. We want to make sure that that's getting to your wallet like ASAP, because the chain needs to observe that the nodes have signed out the outbound transaction. And if there is no outbound transaction, then it's like, hey, well, the nodes didn't send it, so let's slash them. So that needs to happen super quick. So we multiply the number that we observe by 1.5. And then we apply the second multiplier to that number, which is determined based on how much we've spent on gas versus how much we've charged the users for gas, basically over the past like couple years. So some of the chains like Bitcoin, like we've collected a lot more fees than we've actually spent. So we're at this big surplus. So then we can kind of apply this like kind of dampening multiplier and say, all right, well, we're in this big surplus. Like we're basically at like a 50,000 rune profit or whatever the number is. So let's apply this dampening multiplier, and then we can only charge like 50% of what the gas outbound fee is. But then for some chains, there isn't that many swaps, or we're not at a big surplus, or we're maybe even at a loss for some assets, just in terms of like fees collected versus the fees that it takes to send out the outbounds. And we have to apply another multiplier to it. So then we charge like up to 3x what that other number is. So I want to reconfigure the system a little bit just to make it make more sense. Because right now, when we add a new asset on the chain, it starts at this 300% multiplier, and it slowly, slowly, slowly walks down over time to 100% or down to 10%. So I want to change the system a little bit so when a new pool is created, it gets initialized at a different value than 300%, because I think it's just some of our gas fees are just like too crazy, and it's like one of those systems that like nobody really thinks about, but we really need to just like take a look at it. How can we architect it a little bit better? So I'm just like, I think gas fees are just like super underlooked, and I want to make sure that we're like charging as little as possible for gas, that
Does
to
that
a level that makes sense.
does that by THORChain, doing the 2 or 3 times the gas fee, does that affect the quote? Does that get factored in the
Yep.
quote? So that if you fix that, that'll improve our quotes and make our quotes better.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Has there been any thought into like why not just do 1 times, and if there is a higher cost, it just comes out of the reserve, and we just THORChain kind of
That's
eats it
basically
as
what
a loss
happens.
leader.
It's just tuned wrong. Like it's just like the knobs are slightly tweaked in the wrong direction, so we have to just like retweak them to get closer to that. Like what you're saying is exactly what I want the system to be like.
Cool.
What if does it make sense to take like if we have the burn, right? If you had like 1 basis point go to the reserve as like the gas like bulwark, and then like you did what Kenton said, go down to like 100%, whatever it is, right? And then that way, like some of the fees are compensating the reserve for better price execution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that's basically what happens already. It's just like based on this other multiplier, which is based on this other system. It's just like it's a weave of complicated spaghetti that just needs to be unwound a little bit. So instead of implementing a whole new system, we're just gonna tweak some of the knobs to just make it make more sense and just to make it cheaper. But remember, there's still a floor at $1 for outbounds. So even if like there's no point in like over tweaking it, because like it doesn't even matter once you get to once the outbound fee becomes $1, that's the floor. So it doesn't get lower than that. So there's like a point of diminishing returns there. But obviously, like $10 base outbounds, unacceptable. Like like some of the new BNB assets, like we added liquidity for like BUSD on Binance Smart Chain based on some feedback from like Trust Wallet. And right now the outbound fee for that is like $3. And it's not really that big of a deal, but it's like there's no reason for it to not just be like $1, you know?
When you say the floor is $1, does that mean if the outbound fee is actually 2 cents, THORChain is still going to charge $1 anyway?
Yeah, and the reason for that is because there's the computational cost to sending any outbound. Like the nodes have to come together and do a key sign. So there's like a computational cost to any outbound that we send. So kind of, I mean, I guess it's arbitrary that it's just like, all right, well, because the outbound fee isn't just the gas cost. The outbound fee is like, how much does the chain take in for sending the outbound? So it's like, I mean, my opinion is that it should just be as close to the gas cost as possible. But then also, like, the nodes should make sure they're compensated for like outbound, just like the general computational thing. So having $1 outbound floor seems like a good spot to be at. Although I mean, it's possible we could, say we want to lower it or whatever. But $1 seems very reasonable for like that type of thing. Not too high, not too low.
Well, so I'm wondering if, like, with high frequency traders, $1 outbound could actually be a big deal compared to 5 or 10 cents.
Well, that's if you're sending an L1 outbound. If you're a high frequency trader and you're using trade assets, there's no outbound fee for Thor assets because that's just a native chain swap. So that you're not spending $1 doing ARB transactions. You're spending $1 if you want to do a Ethereum to Bitcoin swap. It costs $1 minimum to get that Bitcoin out.
So there's no arbitrage being done in the L1 pools. That's just all retail trading. If there's any arbitrage being done, it's all being done on trade assets.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that $1 doesn't apply to Thor native assets. So like Ruji, for example, if Ruji like any kind of outbound from Ruji, like it costs $1 minimum for us to send the outbound, or it could cost more if the gas cost is more, So it's kind of variable just depending on like the gas cost of the chain, obviously. But yeah, minimum to send an outbound on an L1 chain is $1, but Thor native assets, they're like 0.02 rune, which is like 10 cents or whatever.
Gotcha. Patriot? Can we keep going, or do you have any?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want this FamiliarCow to speak because I know his time's limited. But maybe a little on the personal side, man. I think you recently got married. Went on so congratulations.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I took some time off. Yeah, thank you.
Touch some grass. That's awesome, buddy. I love that.
Yeah, 100%. Things are going good.
Yeah, dude, and you deserve it. You really do, because you put in a lot of hard work. And we wouldn't be here without you. So I'm just so honored you're up here, man. I don't know. I want to keep the conversation going. So I know your time's limited. What else do you want to say while you're up here?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I
all
want
the
to make sure
different
you have
stuff that
maximum
we.
mic time.
Yeah, let's just run through like all the different priorities and stuff because there's like, I mean, all right. So so yeah, I feel like there's always so much, but it's just like this stuff takes time to like just get out there. So obviously, like Tron, one of the biggest things that I think is just a big priority that I've wanted this for a while, and you can see it with XRP. Like I remember like everyone's like, oh, why put in XRP? Like it's just like why even bother with that? And then you look and see this very successful pool that's doing quite well right now. Like if we did that a couple of years ago, like imagine how much volume would have been going through that. So I think Tron, very similar story, and we have some really good data from our integrations partners from from all them that Tron does very high volume. So like I'm very much looking forward to Tron TRX and USDT swaps. I think that's going to be pretty big. The main issue I'm concerned about with Tron is just Tron gas fees. Like Tron is not a cheap chain, and which totally the opposite of what I thought it was. I thought Tron was like, oh yeah, I thought Tron was supposed to be this chain where it's like the whole point is that it's like super cheap, but actually it's like very expensive to send out some of these swaps. So I'm hoping that it's not like prohibitively expensive to use our infrastructure to do it. There's no real way to test that until it's live, but if it does become a problem, then that'll also be a priority that I'll push to make sure that Tron swaps are as cheap as possible, just gas wise. So whether that's like, there are these resources on Tron called like Energy, and you get energy from staking Tron, I believe, and you can spend this like energy, quote unquote, instead of like TRX in gas fees. So maybe there's something that happens where we like, have an agreement with someone that's a node operator on Tron, and we just buy a bunch of energy for THORChain so we can just like have cheaper swaps or something. Like, I don't know. There's things that we can do, but it's kind of like, it's a little opaque to me right now, because until we get it live, it's like kind of hard for all of us to kind of wrap our heads around like what it's really going to be like with Tron on THORChain. But like as a whole, very excited about Tron on THORChain. I think that's going to do a ton of volume. I think it's going to make a big impact in terms of like users and just general swap volume. I think it's going to be pretty big.
I'm excited too, and it's like if there's one way THORChain can redeem itself from THORFi, is to give all the Rune investors what they've been begging for the last few years, is more chains. Like, that's one way we can redeem ourselves. And so I'm happy to see XRP, Tron. We all want Solana. Like, I want to see a dozen more blockchains on THORChain. And yeah, and then that's why I get I don't want to derail the conversation, but this is why I want to do something for some kind of marketing to drive people, let people know they can come trade, they can come do this, because it means these are hugely. If you look at the volumes of these top cryptos, they trade billions of dollars a day. We can capture some of that. So this is great. I'm really looking forward to it. So do you have? Last I heard, like a few weeks ago, Tron was supposed to be a few weeks. So are we still? Is it any day now? Is it still a few weeks out?
It's looking like 310. There's just like, it's mostly just like infrastructure stuff at this point. But there's also like the issue around the gas fees and stuff, which is a big question mark in my mind. It's not going to stop us from shipping it. Like, I'd rather just get it out there with high gas fees to start and then just like fix the issue later, rather than just delay it until like we have a better solution for it. So it's looking like 310, although it's possible that it could get delayed. I also thought it was a couple weeks ago, so it's like kind of news to me that it's it just takes some more stuff, especially on like the back end. I think just getting infrastructure. I think it's mostly like an infrastructure thing at this point. I think the code in Bifrost is shipped. It's just like some Thornode stuff that needs to go out. So I'll have more clarity on that next week when Ursa's back in. So so he's like obviously the guy. So he's going to make sure that gets across the line. Worst case is 311, but obviously like 310 is like an absolutely packed release. So like that'll be like one of many things that goes out in 310. And speaking of Solana, like great news on Solana. EDDSA is live. We've had a couple churns already with EDDSA. We have EDDSA vaults. It works. It looks fine to me. So there hasn't been any objections on moving forward on Solana so far. So it seems like Solana is on track, and I think Solana will be after Tron, just because like Tron just seems like lower hanging fruit, less risk. Solana is just it's beefier. It's going to take more resources and some more focus around it. But maybe like so. Let's call it middle of August for Tron, because that'll be like a 310 release. And then probably late August, probably early September, realistically, for Solana, hopefully. So if all things go well. But EDDSA was the first step, which we've obviously been wanting for a while as well. And that's in, and it's looking like it works. So fingers crossed.
When you said the EDDSA vaults are live and they're working a few churns now, wasn't that one of the bugs or problems happened like several months ago? Is that in testing, the EDDSA vault didn't migrate over. It failed to the churn, and those funds were lost or something. And you guys had to go back to the drawing board to figure it out. Is that true? Am I getting that right?
I don't really remember what that was. Like, I do remember there was some kind of issue with it, although like it seems like things are fine right now. We have EDDSA. Like, this is live on mainnet, so like it's shipped on mainnet. So, and we've had they generated the first vault last churn, 2 churns ago, and then this churn we just migrate. Like, we have a new vault, but obviously there's no funds being migrated between them, so that's like kind of a separate thing. But yeah.
But maybe ask this a different way. Is one of the reasons it's taken so long is that every time it's been tested, there's a new bug that comes up. You have to go back and figure it out, test again, fix another bug. Like, has it been constantly back and forth? Or has it just been a matter of manpower? You just haven't had the devs. That just hasn't been time for people to focus on it to get it done. Like what's taken so long to get Solana to this point?
Yeah, I mean, little column A, little column B. It's like we. It's I mean, we were supposed to do Solana last year, and then we had to drop that for Rune Pool, and then we had to drop that for THORFi stuff, and then we had to drop that for TCY stuff, and then finally it picked back up in May. And this is like Andrew from Strangelove that's leading this charge. And then also, yes, it's like, yeah, you ship it, you see there's a bug, and then it's like, all right, well, then it takes another 2 weeks to 3 weeks to ship out the next version, test it again. And so it's kind of a combination of everything, and really that's why everything just takes so long on this chain, and especially in the past where it's like, hey, like Nine Realms team, we really want to ship out like Tron and do all this stuff, but it's like, well, everyone else wants Rune Pool and this, that, and the other thing, so we got to do that instead. So like the things we've always wanted to do were always indefinitely delayed, and now we kind of have now that the air is cleared a little bit, there's a little more agency for us to actually ship the things that we want to like ship, including Solana.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned Strangelove. Are they still working with THORChain, or are they done now?
So Strangelove was acquired by Ondo. Congrats to them, by the way. So I'm not sure of the complete arrangement, but Andrew, who is like amazingly talented dev, he will be sticking around working about part-time for THORChain, shipping like some things. So the entire team isn't, but Andrew specifically, who's like the rock star on the team, he's the one that's shipping Solana and EDDSA and 2-second block times, which we can get into in a second. He's sticking around working part-time for THORChain.
So is he or some other people who's working on new chains then? Is that Nine Realms or is it all of you?
Yeah, so I'll talk about well, it's a joint effort. Like we have like this dev like community like of like there's Nine Realms, there's like some of the Ruji devs. Like I don't know if Star Squid is like included in that or if he's just like a community dev. He's kind of Ruji, kind of community dev. And we have Andrew from Strangelove, and we have Chad. There's just like it's a dev like I guess you would consider that like the core dev team. So like Nine Realms is one of like the members of the core dev team, I guess. So yeah, I hope that answers your question enough. Where it's like it'll be divided up among those groups of people. Like I could picture Star Squid doing a couple chains, but point on the new chains is I do think we hit. So I think there's a couple more chains that we want to ship out, which I can say exactly what I think those are. But then I think we very quickly hit a point of diminishing returns with chains, where it's like I think there's probably maybe like 3 to 6 new chains I want to see. Then after that, it's like I think we hit the pause button and just like see what happens for a while. Like because I do think we hit this the point of diminishing returns with chains. Like we get the really high value ones, the ones that are like really highly requested by all the integrations, because that's where we really have data. And then it's like once you kind of get into the second tier of chains, it's just like it's just as much work, just as much maintenance for significantly reduced reward. So it's like once you hit that point of diminishing returns, then it's like, all right, well, we'll kind of have to play it by ear at that point. But in terms of like next chains, like Solana, obviously Tron, what else? Oh, Sui, Telegram's network. Those are both EDDSA chains that I want to see. Arbitrum, and I feel like there isn't really much more than that is like mission critical. I think once we get those, that covers like almost all the volume of of our biggest partners. Like everything else is just kind of like scraps at that point, which is like, is it really worth the effort? Like probably not.
Yeah, I think, once we get a certain amount of chains like that, I think the next point is, because you're right, there's so much engineering work that's go to add these chains, and is it worth it? Like at that point, I think you almost want to go almost all in on optimizations and making the network like more hardy, more robust. I don't know, maybe work with the Rajuran devs on stuff. It's beyond my understanding, but just making THORChain more solid, running like butter, leaner and meaner. just so we're more like, your gas optimizations, 2-second block times, and more things that you guys are probably thinking about that we don't know yet. So that makes sense to me because we already have a good amount of chains. We do definitely want those as well. But that's what I would think the next logical step is, just making everything run so good, and just, removing all the nuances. And of course, when we add those new chains, we're going to probably have a litany of new bugs. It always happens. But I have to say, Cal, XRP integration, that has been an absolutely wonderful. I think this is probably the smoothest integration. I don't remember there being problems with Doge back like the first one we added, but XRP has been absolutely. I know we did have a little double spend, but other than that, I don't think there's really been too much. Is that right?
Yeah. Other than so yeah, the only bug is that there was a bug where the vault would it double spent. Well, actually, it's two bugs actually. There was one where we weren't doing instant observations for XRP, so we would try and send the outbound, and then the so on some of the other chains we will instantly observe our own transaction when we send it out. We used to not do that, but then we implemented this instant observation thing. So we didn't do that with XRP. So we kind of learned our lesson on that. All right, let's put instant observations on, and we overlooked that when we shipped the chain. The other thing was with really, really large outbounds, like with some of these, like, $250,000 swaps or whatever. It would take multiple vaults to send out the outbound. But if it's bigger than the balance of the vault that it was trying to send out, there was a bug where it couldn't send out the outbound. It would just get stuck for a while. So like some of these swaps were just like not being able to be signed out because I think there wasn't enough for gas to like send it out or whatever. It was like one of those bugs that's like really hard to catch. But yeah, it was pretty smooth, and yeah, great like chain to add for sure. Like super highly requested. We're still not live in Ledger yet. As a reminder, we're live in Trust Wallet, and like day one, the volume is like rocket ship up. So it's like amazing to see. Love to see it.
Yeah, the XRPers, dude. So I've been interacting with them, and they are so stoked. They are so stoked that we added XRP, and I foresee that pool being one of the busier pools we have. So yeah, that was definitely a diamond win for us. I want to pivot though back to you because I know I don't know how much time you have. I know you have some opinions about the ongoing vote regarding 5 or 8 basis points. I just want to give you the floor if you wanted to speak about that.
Yeah, sure. So here's my thoughts. We were at 8 basis points, and I was the one that made the call to all right, let's vote. Let's go down to 5 basis points for a little bit, see where we're at. That was right before I took some time off for the wedding and honeymoon and stuff. So I was like, all right, when I get back, let's check it out. Let's see how the revenue is, and then we'll move on from there. Maybe maybe it's great. Like I was predicting that hey, volumes are going to go way up once we move down the fees. Um, it turns out that all we're doing is, I mean, in my opinion, and looking at the data, I think that we're just charging less for the same service. We're just undercutting ourselves, and we should just. Well, I'll tell you what I think the solution is, and what we're gonna do. We talked about this during our dev call yesterday, and all the core dev community is in agreement with this approach. So this is likely what's going to happen. Um, it's a real pain doing all these votes, and like the last thing I want to spend my time on is like having to like whip votes or trying to like convince people, especially on something like these fees. Especially, and someone also brought up a good point where it's like I was saying, hey, well, we should move fees up, see if revenue goes back up, because like I think we're just charging less for the same service now, but really arbs are like 80% of the volume on the chain, like bots. It's all bots, but like changing the L1 min slip fee doesn't change what the arbs are paying because that's a separate Mimir. And then there's another Mimir that we need to change so they don't get around it by using secured assets instead of trade assets. So there's really 3 Mimirs we have to change if we want to experiment with it. And I just, I really just don't want to spend any time at all thinking like having to like do governance and votes and stuff like that is like the last thing that I want to do. So what I think that we should do moving forward, I think we should move all of those fees to operational. If you're unopinionated, so okay, so operational Mimirs, meaning that only 3 votes are required to change it, and then further than 3 votes, it's a simple majority. So if someone else votes with 4, then it changes to that value. And if someone else votes with 5, then it changes to that value. So it's kind of like, if you're unopinionated, you can stay out of it and just say like, all right, let the devs do their thing. Or let's say you really, really, really care about like the 3 basis points that, we want to check with right now, then, you can vote and stop us in our tracks and, just do that. I think we can do that for things like the fees, because that isn't really like a mission critical thing. It's not like a security issue. Obviously, it's like a UX thing, but like, yeah, I want to maximize the revenue that we take in. Like, nodes are, past couple of months, I've been looking at the data, like, and as like like Nine Realms, the company that runs Thor nodes, node revenue is way down. Like, we want to try and optimize that as much as possible, and if that means less volume from retail users, then it means less volume from retail users. Like I'd rather have more revenue than more volume. So that's where I'm at with it. So basically, I want the ability to be able to say like, hey, let's be more experimental. I think we should go anywhere from 1 basis point to 15 to 30. I don't know, probably not 30, but like we should just like experiment for a week and say like, hey, we're launching Tron. Let's bring it to 1 basis point and just like see what happens for a week. Does revenue go to 0 that week? If it does, then that's a lesson. And let's move it to 15. And does revenue go way up that week? Or does our volume crash or whatever? Like, none of this stuff. So the issue with the economic mimirs is that it's moving a train every single time you want to change it, which is really good if it's mission critical, like security or like, changing the time between a churn or whatever. But
So
yeah.
as a node operator, and bond provider, I agree with that. I would like to see that, because decentralization is great for security, but it's awful for governance. And having an individual tweak the fees isn't going to blow up THORChain. And Nine Realms, you guys get paid from your 5% developer fund, from the revenue, right? So you have every motivation in the world to keep the THORChain revenue high, and in turn my bond provider yield high, and the liquidity provider yield high. So all our interests are aligned, and so I totally agree. I would love to have you guys have that ability. But I would ask that you guys can do that, great, but provide us with some charts, some data, kind of, walk us through your findings so that we can, as the node operators, we can, we can corroborate what you're saying. We don't have to just trust you, right? It'd be nice to see. But a question for you, Cal, the L1 min slip fee, I mean, that's just across the board, all pools, all trade sizes. I think the guy's name is Crypto Actuary. He's been talking about, can we change it so that it's a different fee on the dollar size of the trade? Or could we also change it on a per pool basis, right? If we have the monopoly on decentralized XRP swaps, maybe we can get away with 30 basis points, instead of 8. You know what I mean? Maybe with Bitcoin pool, we should drop it to 3 because we want to be competitive with the rest of the market. Is that possible? Has that been talked about?
I mean, it is totally possible. I really like all the ideas, but it's like, it's really just implementation. Like, if he wants to ship a PR, then maybe we can talk about merging it. But it's like, when it's all just like, hey, we should do this, we should do that. It's like, it's not especially helpful, especially like with just the resources that we have. It's much easier to just like tweak the parameter, like with the DOFM stuff, the outbound fee stuff. It's way like 1,000 times easier, and it's not easy, by the way, to tweak any of this stuff with the current system that we have rather than like implementing a whole new thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, that all that stuff is possible, I think, but it's like, I think it's just, I'd rather ship everything else that we have rather than like, figure out like, and then it's just more data to go through and to figure out. It's just like, man, it just never ends, the rabbit hole. So yeah, I'm much more preferable to like tweaking the stuff that we got rather than trying to figure out how to like create this new system that's on this Jenga tower that's built on top of the current system that just more and more levers to tweak. It's like the last thing I want to do is all this lever pulling. It's just like, oh my god, what a crazy time suck. Especially pulling like our delegates and stuff like that, like announcing votes. Like I really also the reason I really haven't been pushing this super hard in like Discord and stuff and like really banging the drum on it is like I don't want to like fatigue people on this. And I can see there's disagreement, but I'm also not really sure whether it's like disagreement in the fact that it's like, hey, like we want to keep fees at 5, or otherwise like I'm gonna turn out and dump my rune or whatever, or if it's just like, hey, well, I'm just voicing my devil's advocate opinion, and like we trust you guys to do this or what. So I think that the move to operational Mimir is the best thing, because then we can just say, hey, if you don't care, then unvote and just let us take care of it. And if you do care, then keep your votes and it's operational. And then if we outweigh you, then we're gonna move the fees around. And obviously we're very aligned. Like we want to just maximize. Like the goal is to like maximize the revenue to the system. Like it's a very simple equation, and like without the ability to easily move the levers around, like it's just gonna waste too much time if we try and like implement these little microsystems on top of the system we already got. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah. You got to be able to, that's the whole point of testing. You got to try this and try that and quickly. Like if you're doing a test and realizing it's not working, you can't wait a few weeks to rally up all the nodes to change it. It's just easier just to do it yourself.
Well, I feel like that's where we're at with the fees. It's like, hey, you can look at like the one chart that I posted where it's like the revenue per unit of volume. So it normalizes how much we're charging for how much volume there is. You can see exactly where we flipped that switch. It was hovering around one number, and now it's very much down towards 5, which is, hey, that's where we set the Mimir. I wonder why that is.
So just a little bit of a, I don't know this is going to sound cheeky, but to change it to an operational Mimir, won't that still require the 2/3 of the nodes to agree? Like how is that going to go through in an update, like the like 3.10 or something? How is that going to go through?
Changing it to operational Mimir from economic Mimir, I'm pretty sure that's just like a Thor node update. So we'll probably do that in like 3.11 or something.
Yeah, I agree, because for me, the operational Mimir, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but I actually think that's actually decentralized governance. It's just leaner, right? It's more like I think you should be decentralized governance, but be as efficient as possible. And I think it's good that if nodes can vote on the fly, like in the moment, that they can change the fee structure if they choose, right? And because sometimes, Cal, to your point, yeah, you don't want people to get apathetic. Node operators get apathetic to votes, right? They can vote if something really needs to happen, and they have the option to do it immediately. But yeah, I think that's great. And then it allows you in Nine Realms to play with things and experiment and really dial in the data. And so we can find that really sweet spot, everything. And then, of course, with the idea of having individual Mimirs for maybe like specific pools, and choosing prices. To me, how my brain thinks about it is actually what you would want to do: focus on getting the chains delivered, get all the things you want to get done now, your big goals. And then, like, I don't know, down the line when we have like 4, 5, 6 chains, whatever it is added, then you can dial things in. You can add little tweaks, little parameters, maybe a little bit more levers that are also operational Mimirs that give nodes more utility. But at this time, that would be a huge amount of complexity and be very distracting when we should be adding more chains, right? So yeah, I agree with you. I think operational Mimir is the way to go.
Yeah, and it totally aligns with the ethos too. It's like if you don't care, then you don't vote, and the people that do care vote. Where it's like economic Mimir, it requires action from everybody. So it's like like exactly the way that this kind of vote should be. So I think that's how how we should handle it. So I'm kind of done pushing on it, because I don't think that changing the L1 fee is enough. Like we need to change the trade asset fees too. And I'm really not about to run 3 different votes. So yeah, that's where we're at with it. So I'm kind of like on pause with it right now. I really would like to see the revenue go up now rather than in like 2 months when this happens or whatever. But I guess that's kind of the world I live in. So
I think
which is good. Like, I mean, it's good that we can't just like change stuff too. But yeah.
And this is why this space is so good, man, because I'm so glad you're up here because you coming up here and speaking in real time, understanding your reasons why you want to go to operational mirror. I think it makes much more sense. It's, Discord, sometimes it can be really hard, the bandwidth to truly understand the reasons why someone wants to do this. And you explain it in real time, just add such crystal clear context why this is such an important move. And I totally agree with you. If anyone else disagrees, they can come up here and say something, but it makes complete sense to me. And again, it doesn't even change governance. It just makes THORChain leaner and more dynamic, which I think is the best case.
It's something about speaking versus typing, I think. Like, I think when you type, people just skim it and their eyes just glaze over and they just like have their own context where it's like I can kind of just add whatever flavor I want without it being like a giant wall of text that you'll just never read. So
I actually am guilty of that. I mean, I think reading's harder, right? Because you have to like look at text and then your brain has to translate and it takes a lot more computational load. And when I'm tired, my eyes just get real, it's hard, you know what I mean? Hearing things,
yeah.
it's a much more, and then I can hear your inferences, your voice or intonations and understand where you're coming from. Yeah, space is a way to go. This is why we're going to do them every week, guys. And Cow, if you ever have something where you're like, we really need to do this, and people just don't quite understand where I'm coming from, dude, always come up here and state your case because you're obviously very respected, and you made the perfect case right there. So I'm firmly behind that for sure. So yeah, man. Let's see here. Was there anything else, Cal? Is there anything else we should know?
Yeah, 2 second block times. 2 second block times right around the corner. So that's something that the Strangelove team is working on. That's something that's a little more high risk because it's not like, well, okay, there's other things that we want to ship that are like, okay, we can ship this, but if it, we'll have a mirror behind it so that we can, shut it off if it doesn't work or, if there's a bug or whatever. Because like, the complexity of shipping with THORChain is like you really need to kick the system at scale to see some of these like edge case problems like the XRP stuff. So that's fine when you're talking about like limit orders, which is another amazing thing that we can talk about in a second. But 2 second block times is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we kind of just got to turn it on and just like see if it works and see if there's any problems that arise around it. It's mostly like the more thing I'm worried about most around that is not really so much like the computational load on nodes, because I think we're mostly fine with it unless you're a bare metal node operator who's like running at like 80% capacity right now. I think all the nodes will be fine computationally. It's more like the stuff around it where it's like whoever's using things that like use the block time in a certain way, like, you're just assuming that the block time is 6 seconds, but what if the block time isn't 6 seconds? What if it's 2 seconds? And what if we don't hit 2 seconds? What if it's like 2.5? Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is like kind of hard to predict around that. So it's like, that's one of those changes that's like coming up real soon. That's more of a, all right, well, we're just gonna have to have everyone online when this happens and just like hope that nothing blows up and just like keep an eye on it. I think 2 second block time is going to be amazing though, just in terms of like making the chain faster. It's going to make streaming swaps faster. Arbs will be able to arb quicker. Like, it's just like a level up around the board. But it's like one of those things that's just like, all right, like we gotta just kind of do it on mainnet.
In theory, it should 3x. If it's 3 times faster, we should have 3 times the volume. In theory, right? When isn't one of the things that had to be done to get to 2 second block times? Doesn't TSS have to be updated to like DKLS or something like that? Is that
It's kind of separate. I do
okay?
think that is a nice thing to do, and I think there are like, I don't know, I very few people understand TSS. And I'm definitely not going to pretend to be one of those people. So I want to see DKLS tested in like Maya mainnet for a while first before we do something like that. Just personal opinion. Just like I like testing. We need a lot of testing around it. Like, that's one of those things that makes me nervous, and I have no context to even say like what the blind spots are. So, yeah.
Fair enough. You mentioned Maya doing the testing. Our good friends there at Maya Protocol. Have they tested the 2 second block times? Have they implemented that themselves?
I doubt it. I don't think so.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's talk about limit orders for a second. Limit orders is awesome. So limit orders comes with rapid swaps, which this is limit orders on the base layer, which basically means so it's kind of like this hybrid order book where all the swaps still go through the AMM, but your assets can just like sit as trade assets for a little bit, and then once your price limit hits, the swaps go through. So this is like I think it's going to be really great for ARBs, especially. I think ARBs are going to be using limit orders rather than just like trade asset swaps like they do right now. It's just like a total level up in that regard. So pricing is going to be better, especially for large swaps, but especially pricing is going to be more accurate because like right now streaming, like if you get a quote for a $2 million swap, it's just kind of like, all right, well, we think that it's going to be this, but we really don't know. Like the price, if Bitcoin went to $1 million today, like obviously you're not going to feel that quote for like 100K or whatever. So limit orders just gives us better ARB. Like you'll just be able to just get your limit. Like your swap will be filled off a limit as part of a streaming swap instead of just having to stream. So not only will the 2-second block times make streaming swaps faster and more efficient, but the limit orders will make it like incredibly more efficient. So that's great. And then also Ruji's order book will build off all of that. So it's like you can kind of think it as like 3 layers where we have like the V2 style liquidity, Uni V2 style liquidity on the base layer AMM. We have limit orders on top of that. And then we have Ruji's limit orders on as like a third layer to that. So it consumes both the V2 liquidity and the order book liquidity, and it has its own order book in the middle that's like separate liquidity that's like outside of all that. So it's like it's kind of like building the same order book but like inside out in 2 different ways. And once that's all set up, I think it's going to be super efficient and give really good pricing. But so this is just like the next level up in terms of that. But it also touches all of the swap logic, and it's one of those things that I'm saying about just like well, we kind of got a YOLO 2-second block times, but things like the limit order book changes a lot of logic, but it's one of those things that's mirrorable. You can just switch it off. If there's a bug or whatever and it breaks, then we just switch back to the old logic and then fix it, and then onwards.
I'm convinced limit swaps and rapid swaps are going to be as like those 2 come out are going to be as big a deal as streaming swaps. If volume doesn't take off because of them, I'm going to be shocked. So I'm pretty excited for those too. The limit swap. So is it like that's happening on the L1 pools, right? So a regular user can place a limit swap, or is it just happening on trade assets?
I'm not sure if it's using trade assets or secured assets, but it's happening on the L1. So I don't see. I mean, I think a retail user would be able to. Yeah, I mean, of course, a retail user would be able to. It just depends on whether interfaces like allow you to or not, basically.
Doesn't mind my next question. So the wallets, the interfaces are going to have to do something, change their UI to give their users the ability to place the limit order.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just be like a different type. It'll just be like another flag in the memo, just like, hey, this is a limit order rather than a market order. Which right now every THORChain order is a market order or it's a TWAP order if it's a streaming swap. But this is like a third type of order, basically.
Cool. So this should be, everyone's worried about, THORChain, how we're showing up in quotes on these different front ends. If we're able to do limit orders, that in itself should help us rise to the top. If the user wants to place a limit instead of a market order, we should be the only route shown, right? Or no? Do you still see other routes? Do you think?
Well, it depends if the pricing's better. Like that's really all it is. All these aggregators, they just compare what the quote is. So it's like if our quote's better, then you win. If it's not better, then you don't win. But let me speak for a second on limit orders because not on intents and like all this stuff because I have some interesting opinions on this that I don't know if anyone's expressed this before or not. I think that my thoughts on like all this intense stuff that's going on right now is I don't see how it's not just 2017 shapeshift, but with the chain in the middle. You know, does that make sense to everybody? Where so with THORChain, the difference between THORChain and like an intent model is THORChain, the liquidity comes from the protocol, comes from liquidity pools. So you have liquidity providers that put money into the pools, and then the pools are what fills a quote. So when someone does a swap, it's not an individual user liquidity provider that fills a trade. It's the protocol that does. So that's like how THORChain is decentralized. Decentralized custody and decentralized liquidity. Intense is just the first thing, is just decentralized custody. Like the actual quote is just like you're some market maker and you have like, you have this much Bitcoin, you have this much USDT, whatever. And then you're just getting these quotes and saying, yeah, I'll fill this user, I won't fill this user. And it's just not decentralized. Like, I'm not sure why we're pretending that it is. The custody of the assets is decentralized. The liquidity is not decentralized. So, like, I'm not really sure what to think about that. Like, it is great. Does it really fill like the requirements of like what is a DEX? I'm not really sure what to think about that. Like, how is it that this person is not a regulated like sorry, there's like a there's like a regulated term for this, a regulated money transmitter with the Bank Secrecy Act and has its own license.
MSB or VASP.
Yeah. So how is I don't understand how a liquidity provider in an intent system is not a regulated entity. Like to me, that's just like, okay, well, you're just doing the same thing. It's just a blockchain in the middle, so it's like decentralized? Question mark. I don't think it actually is. So it's like you're directly filling that user's quote. You're saying, hey, this user 0x12345, I'm going to give them this much Bitcoin for this much, USDT. So how is that like,
I
how is that okay?
I can answer your question.
Yeah.
Let's just say they don't give a fuck, because what they're going to do is they'll just do it for a year or two, milk the bull market, make a bunch of money. Then the regulator will come, it takes the regulator a couple of years, come knock on their door. I'm like, hey, wait a second, you can't do this. You got to be, you have to be an MSB, you have to be a VASP. Oh, oops, sorry. Okay, we'll turn it off. And that's it. No one goes to jail. No one gets, maybe they get a fine, but they've made X amount of million. So it's no different. Like speeding isn't illegal. Speeding just costs you a few $100s every time you get caught, right? Money laundering isn't illegal for the big banks. It just costs them $1 billion fine whenever they get caught. So these guys it's just a regulatory arbitrage that they know they can get away with it for a year or two. In the meantime, make a ton of money, and they get shut down. They don't care, right? This is just a quick buck for them. So that's what's happening. Now, I don't know if that's near. I don't want to, start throwing shade on it. I don't know, but I know that does happen in the industry. I don't want to get into pointing fingers who does it, but that is a real playbook for some of these guys.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that like there's a big difference between like THORChain, which is decentralized custodian, decentralized liquidity, and then like an intense protocol, call it CowSwap, call it Near, call it whoever. I don't really care. It's just like it's very even though it's like the same product for the user. Like we could have just done that from the beginning on THORChain and made this whole thing a lot simpler. It's like you could build it all on the app layer right now if you wanted to. The THORChain is just like you can just use the custody framework to build this intense protocol, and then you plug in like Cumberland on the end, and yeah, they'll give you quotes or whatever, and maybe they'll do it for a while until like a regulator comes and and says, hey, wait a minute, like who's actually providing this liquidity? And obviously like it comes at the cost of censor resistance too, because like THORChain network is what provides the liquidity. Where if you're a market, like we saw this with Chainflip, right? If you're the liquidity provider and you are servicing bad swaps, like guess what? You are directly servicing that like swap. Like there's no way around that. So yeah, I think it's like it's totally different in terms of just like censor resistance and DeFi. It's CDFi. It's just like the step up from like I just want to emphasize that like THORChain is real DeFi. Like, and there's very few of these that exist today, and I don't think there's any of them that are going to spring up anytime ever. So like, yeah, THORChain is real DeFi. in terms of like custody and liquidity. So just like an important thing that I wanted to throw out there, where it's like, you know, that's why I'm also not worried about the fee stuff. Like let's bring up the fees to 15 basis points. Let's just see what happens for a while. Say we lose some retail user volume, like I'm okay with that. You know, like it's gonna be okay. There's gonna be, it's a race to the bottom on fees anyway. We're playing our own game, so like there's no point to undercut ourselves and our own services just in the name of like trying to win out all these like shrimpy swaps from like, you know, $100 swappers. You know, we're not making any money on those swaps anyway.
I want to keep Cal's on a great run here, but Pragmatic Monkey, I know you got your hand up. Is there something you want to add to this conversation about intents?
Yeah, guys. Hey, not just a quick one on reacting on the intents view of FamiliarCow. I don't see it the same way. I think so. It's mainly, I think, a definition of what you call intents. And where your liquidity come from. But what we are building with the order book on Rojira is effectively a decentralized intent protocol. An intent at the end is just matching peer-to-peer to will. Somebody want to sell at this price, somebody on the other side who want to buy at this price, and we can match those two people. And what we have built with Rojitrade, which is a 100% on-chain decentralized order book, is an intent matching engine, effectively, that allow us to pull liquidity from various different sources. And one of the sources will be the THORChain-based layer pool via the virtualization strategy, but we'll also have other sources, which will be like concentrated liquidity strategies that live directly on the app layer, and other sources which are just regular users, who can be small or large institutions that just come and put a limit order at a set price in the order book. And sure, we can also have like external market maker, Cumberland or whoever, who come and put a quote in the book, and we don't care. Like, we cannot discriminate. That's the key thing. And what is decentralized? We don't know who are the liquidity provider at the end, and we don't care. All what Rojitrade does is aggregate all those quotes and then match the best bid with the best ask. And whenever the bid cross the ask, another get filled. And that's all what it does. And so we effectively make intents. We have an intent protocol that is fully decentralized, that can take liquidity from any different sources. It's there and it's coming to THORChain. And you can call it an intent. And I think it respects what you mean by decentralized liquidity, FamiliarCow. So just wanted to share this different view.
Yeah, a good point for sure. I guess I do view the order book a little bit differently than like intents, where like I guess you can think of it like the order book is still like in the middle there. You know what I mean? Or I feel more like intents is just like, hey, the user said they want this, and then you know, more like the I don't know. It just seems way more like serving the user directly rather than like an actual order.
No, exactly.
Book,
but that's because we misqualify what an intent is. Everybody like NEAR or CoSwap or whoever, they call that intent, but actually the person who fill the order is, as you say, like it's a black box. It's not anybody that can come and fill. It's a restricted amount of professional market makers, and that allow for discrimination, and that allow for deciding arbitrarily to fill or not an order, or to give a different price, or to capture an arbitrage that they have, which is usually how they fill those orders. In our case, the order book doesn't discriminate any source of liquidity. Like, we cannot do that. By the design of the smart contract doesn't allow to discriminate, and it's a fair order book, and that's a key innovation of what we have built, what Hans has built with Rojitrade smart contract and Fin before that. It's at a given level of price, everybody gets filled pro rata the same way. There is no discrimination, and there is no ordering of this larger guy is gonna get filled first, and then we fill from the biggest to the lowest, or the other way around. We don't do that. Modulo, of course, like a small, like you have necessarily you have decimal precision impact, but that's we talk about 10 power 8 decimals, and what happened after that, at some point we have to cut, and so there is sometimes like on very, very, very tiny orders, there may be some discrimination because of roundings, but that's marginal microcents the transaction we are talking about. So we have that, and it's fair and it's fully decentralized. So it's happening on THORChain, and we can call it intent as well, but it's not intent as what Near or CoSwap would call intent.
Yeah. I just it's the word intense that it just gets to me here, because it just means nothing, and like, you know what I mean?
Well, it actually means something. That's the thing. Like, people limited the meaning of it as being some privately filled order. But if you look at the definition of intent, I'm pretty sure it's something like manifestation of wanting something specific, and that's pretty much it. In the context,
which is why they call it intense.
Trading.
So, like, I mean, we can call it CDFI intense, like, whatever. I think you guys know what I mean.
Exactly, CDFI intense, and we are like properly bringing DeFi intense.
Yeah, I think that's great, guys. Isn't a THORChain space awesome, guys? I mean, come on. How much signal to noise ratio here? I mean, we're on one side of the pendulum here. I love this stuff. We always bring the goods here. We have the epic freaking guest today. FamiliarCow, how much time do you have left, man? Want to make sure that we squeeze every little bit of the juice we can out of you, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I could stay on for 15, 20 more minutes. Any specific topics you guys want to talk about?
Are you done? You don't have anything else to go over?
That's all that's on top of my mind. I'm sure there's always something. So maybe you guys could help me out here.
I'll go first, Kenton, if you want to follow. So how's the team doing over at Nine? How's everyone doing? Like, let's humanize this a little bit. You know, how's Orion? How's the whole squad over there? Ursa, how are you doing? I'm feeling really bullish, man. And I know you guys are just grinding away. How's the squad looking?
Yeah, we're grinding. I mean, we got a bunch of new folks on the team. Everyone's excited. So the future is looking really nice. It's just, it's a process getting people up to speed on like, especially what's like a very specialized piece of very complicated infrastructure. But everyone's very excited around like the future of DeFi.
Is Nine Realms done hiring? Are you guys still looking for more people?
No, we're done at this point. Although if there was a rock star that came along, I don't think we'd say no. But there's no plans to bring anyone else on at this point, as far as I know.
Well, I'm really glad you guys managed to get Andrew for just at least part-time. That guy is an absolute legend. And so I am so glad that he'll be still working, because when I heard that the company got acquired, I was like, damn, we're going to lose that guy. But sounds like that's not what's happening. That's awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah, I know. We're really grateful that Andrew's sticking around and continuing to do stuff. He's a really valuable asset to the network.
I just want to open up to the audience. If anybody wants to come up to ask Cow any questions. I'm not seeing any requests.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Hopefully...
I can give my take on the whole THORChain front end thing. If you guys want to hear my take on it.
Sure, yeah. Sure. Yeah, why not?
All right, my take is honestly, I don't really care. Like, that's my take. It's like, all right, that's great. We could do a decentralized. We could do like a THORChain canonical front end. We could not. Like, who cares? Like, I think that the back end infra is much more important, and like, I think that it's just like. Yeah, it's just like such a marginal thing. I get all the points around being able to market it and stuff, and I guess that is really good. It's going to be a ton of maintenance to do this. Like, it's just seems like a ton of work to actually do it. Also, I saw that THORSwap today shipped out their rune.thorswap.finance, which is absolutely awesome. And I love to see that. Like, there's so many good community interfaces out there that it's like, I understand the conundrum. It's just are we really going to get the next $100 million of daily volume out of building a new interface for THORChain? I don't think so at all. So that's kind of just my 2-second thoughts on it. I'm not strongly opinionated on it. If someone built it, then I would use it myself, why not? But at the same time, I also support the community projects. I use THORSwap and AsgardX, and I use LeoDex now. Been really liking them lately, especially for my Zcash swaps with Maya. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's for me, it's a risk reward. All right, fine. It doesn't, doesn't take off, but I don't see us. We don't risk very much trying it. And there's all the talk about improving the quotes on THORChain, for us to quote higher in the other front ends. Well, maybe the reason, Trust and Ledger and all these front ends are not, why aren't their users, taking off on using them? Maybe the affiliate fees are just too high. Maybe people don't want to pay 50, 100, 150 basis points to trade.
That's true.
Maybe if we
Those
have the
users are
low.
going to a centralized exchange anyway. Like it's like the users that you're capturing on like the Trust wallet on the Ledger, especially Ledger. Ledger charges like what, like 1.5% on their swaps. Like those users, they just don't want to. Like they just want something easy to use. It's like it's a captive audience for all these, for Trust Wallet, for anything else. If you want the lowest fees, then you'd probably just withdraw to your exchange that you bought your crypto on in the first place. So it's like a matter of convenience thing, I think, a lot of it. But I mean, that's part of it, is like making DeFi convenient. So it's like, I think that a memoless front end could definitely make it a lot easier to achieve that. And I really wanted to see swaps on THORChain.org, because I think it would just be like pretty convenient, and someone be able to like come in 2 seconds and do it. I think it kind of opens up like a whole swath of like maintenance and like all this stuff. But yeah, if someone builds it, like sure, I would use it myself. Like, sounds fun.
Yeah. Can I give again my little side here? That's exactly my vision right there. Is I want something, because I don't, I want a simple interface, and my big idea is like memoless. Memoless, it's pretty simple as far as I understand. I'm not a developer. Very little maintenance. I don't want to compete. And this is just me speaking. This isn't Kenton or anyone else. I don't want to compete necessarily on interface with like Leodex or THORSwap, but I want somewhere where I can point and say, hey, you want to use THORChain, go there. And the big problem I have, and I've encountered this in the point is, as an educator of THORChain, I will get flack if I push one interface over there, which I should. I should be impartial. They all work really hard. I don't, because my role, I have a lot of sway in the community, and I could definitely push favoritism to one interface. There's actually someone in the audience right now, World Be Free. Hello. She actually, I did a interview with her, and at one point we had 1,300 people listening live. And I was talking about THORChain, I was talking about Ruggiera, I was talking about all the things that are coming, and it just drove me crazy in the back of my mind that I did not have a point that I could just say, go here just to try it, just go here to make a swap. And when I like at the beginning of the space, like Kenton reads off, the list, like, hey, go to the website, click and choose. Like, that's really high friction. I want to be able to just quickly and efficiently, someone who's never heard of THORChain, don't even understand DeFi, nothing. I want them to be able to go to an interface, connect, boom, and make a swap. And then we got them, right? And then they maybe can get deeper, and then they can start learning about more DeFi. And then I think this will result in more users for like Leodex and THORSwap and THORWallet and Edge Wallet, and because all of them offer different features. That's kind of where my brain goes. If we just have this interface that we can just promote, and I can just point real simply, like, go there, try it. And I'm open to, how exactly want to do it. I don't necessarily have my mind set in stone how this works, but I really think us just trying it, and let's just see what happens. And maybe you're right, FamiliarCow. Maybe it doesn't go well, but I think it's an experiment we're trying. And I promise, like, if we can get memoless shipped, I will work my butt off to try and make it work and push more volume to everyone.
I think it's no different than approaching a girl. Oh, what if she laughs at me? What if she turns me down? What if she, so, you get shot down. Move on with your life. Like the risk reward of having our front end is so huge. Like, all right, it doesn't work. All right, nobody uses it. All right, well, what do we lose? 30 grand, 50 grand, a couple months of playing with it. All right, we move on to something else. It's not like it's gonna like destroy THORChain and ruin the whole protocol. Like it can only, the probability of it taking anything away from THORChain is so ridiculously low that it's just a no-brainer to do, because there really is just upside. So To me, it doesn't.
That's a good point. I don't think it takes away from anything. Like it's just, but the thing is, it's like stacking another. It's just like, hey, here's another one. Like people come up to me sometimes and it's like, hey, I built this interface. Like, can I like add? Can you tweet about it? Can you like advertise it on THORChain.org and stuff? And I'm just like, dude, like I don't know. I think about this problem in a different way, maybe because I'm just like, well, there isn't like there's these users out there. It's like, hey, which interface should I be using? It's just like they just want to go somewhere and get the best rate, and they'll use a centralized exchange, like whatever, like who cares? Like there isn't like these users out there that are, in my opinion, maybe there are that are just like, constantly like, hey, like let me try out this new like brand new thing. I guess if it's THORChain branded, kind of makes a little bit of a difference because it's like the quote unquote official. But what actually makes it more official than anything else? It's like it's just as unofficial as anything else. Like I don't know. Maybe that's not true because it's on the .org, but like in actuality, there's really nothing that separates it other than like whether it collects a fee or not, which it is good in its own respect, but is
No,
there
I
really
think
that much of that type of user out there?
yeah, I think the official does make a big difference because it's THORChain.org. And then the second order effect is that people will buy Rune, want to invest in Rune. And any, the front end is just banking on the fact that they're going to milk the THORChain audience. I mean, they're not actually adding any value to THORChain. Like the whole point of getting THORChain integrated into these other wallets and websites is to tap into new audiences. If all these front ends are just, stepping over each other to try and capture the same audience, like that's not growing THORChain. I mean, we just do it ourselves. Our own front end would be feeless, and our own audience can just trade much cheaper than paying the high affiliate fees. All these other front ends just, trying to capitalize on our own audience. Like the reason these affiliates, these front ends should be charging the higher fees because they're using that money to go get a new audience, to go reach new people, to go find those people that want to use their product. And I mean, there's millions of people in crypto, to tens of millions of people that are already in crypto, already have wallets, are already, for lack of a better term, crypto natives. THORChain's barely scratched the surface on reaching any of them. And then what about the S adoption curve, right? We've got 10% of the world is in crypto. What about the next 80% of the world coming to crypto? What are they going to use? How are they going to interact? Like, I'm not saying the THORChain front end is going to get the next 80% of the world's population. That's not what I'm saying at all. But maybe a little bit, right? And THORChain front end is just like any other front end out there. It's just another way for people to interact with THORChain. And we want THORChain to be in every wallet, in every front end. So having the THORChain one is we're just adding to the mix. But at least we can monetize our own brand, right? And like Patriot said, we have somewhere to send people. We've got thousands of THORChads. Now we can give them a business card. We can give them something to sell. When we do, PR or marketing or whatever, we have a call to action. Come to our website, right? So yeah, I just can't see how this can hurt us. There's just so much more positives than negatives with this.
What do you guys think about the website, by the way? Is it good, bad? Do we hate it? Do we love it?
Oh no, I think it's yeah. Actually, I'm glad you asked because I hope you didn't take it as I think the current website sucks. Not at all.
No,
I think it's great for information. Absolutely, like that shouldn't change. We just need to add the app.THORChain. That's all. Yeah.
No, but like, is there any actual feedback on the website? Like, do we like it? Do we hate it? Is there something that we think we could add that's not just like, obviously like a swap app is like a totally different thing, but like anything that people want to see on the website that just like doesn't exist there right now, like better stats, like a dashboard, like I don't know.
I haven't checked it in a while. Is there a link maybe to Rune Bond? That might be good. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I added them to the ecosystem page.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. I don't know, man. I think it's really good. THORChain's a big beast. It's a big girl. So learning about all the aspects, it takes a lot of work. So it's hard to make something, look good yet fully encompassing when it's this big. And you've managed to do that. In my opinion, I think it looks solid. I think it looks clean. I think it looks professional. So yeah, man, I like it.
Cool. I guess one other thing which I'm just like thinking of right now, and I'm just like I haven't really talked to anybody about this yet. So let me hear your guys' initial takes on this. So I'm feeling like the incentive pendulum is one of those areas that should be revisited over the next like couple of months, just because I think we know that the V2 liquidity model is like kind of broken with streaming swaps. Like V2 liquidity is just not the way forward, and
Can I
the
stop
limit
you for a
orders.
sec? Can I stop you
Yeah,
for a sec? Can you
yeah, go
explain
for it.
to us what is V1 liquidity, V2 liquidity? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so V2 style liquidity is Uniswap V2 style liquidity, so the V2 version of Uniswap. It's an automatic market maker, an AMM that uses an XYK price curve for for trade. So it is not concentrated liquidity like Uni V3 is. So Uni V3 has liquidity providers put their liquidity in like a price band and say, I'm going to provide liquidity between this price, and then outside of that, there's no liquidity outside of that. So I'm not going to pretend to understand it 1,000%, but Uni V2 is kind of unbounded, where the price can go you provide liquidity from every price band as a liquidity provider from 0 to infinity, and the anyway, so that is what Uni V2 style liquidity is, and Uni V3 is just a much more efficient way to do it, but it requires this like active LP where you need like someone who's like a quote unquote professional LP to come in. THORChain, we don't have that. We have like these passive LPs. They provide liquidity. Now most of the liquidity is just protocol owned liquidity is locked there. It's not owned by any individual user. So it's quite capital inefficient. Like Uni V3 is much more capital efficient, and limit orders kind of satisfy that a little bit. It just builds on top of the Uni V2 style pools that we have, so it makes the Uni V2 style more efficient without us having to like re-engineer all of our liquidity. But the whole point is that we have this system that's on top called the incentive pendulum that directs rewards between liquidity providers and the nodes. But like especially with Ruji and secured assets being like much more of a thing, and trade assets and these assets that are secured outside of the pools, the system that was in place, which is actually one of the systems that I thought was genius, that brought me into THORChain, and I was like, well, this is like pretty incredible how they use the balance of the liquidity versus the security to balance the rewards. I thought that was an amazing idea, and if we were staying on the old system, then it would make sense. But I think more and more liquidity is just going to be filled by limit orders and just kind of like the pseudo order book that's on top of THORChain, and we have a decentralized network now. Like it's not just like it's not at the scale that it was a couple of years ago. Like it's a very credibly decentralized network, probably one of the most decentralized networks that's out there. And we don't have to have like the hard economic security stance that we did in the past. So that also comes with like that's great, and we've already moved in that direction, and like nodes have already like signaled that that's the way to go, especially with like all the app layer stuff that's happening, which I think is 1,000% the way to move forward and accelerate and keep shipping, especially like real DeFi products. But I do think that one thing that's forgotten about is the incentive pendulum, because it's like, all right, great, then we're shipping all this stuff and we have all these rewards, but we're still like sending the rewards out based on the balance of V2 style liquidity to security, which doesn't really make sense. But I also don't have a better answer on like what we should do yet. So maybe that's just like what I should kind of leave everyone with, is like, how do we re-engineer this? Like, what should we do? I'm sure Chad would have his own answer of what to do. I'm sure other people would have their own thoughts. Is it like fixed, like 75% goes to nodes, 50%? Like, I don't know. Like, what the heck do we do? That's kind of a question that's just like lingering in my mind. I don't really have an answer to, but it feels like it should change with the change of security posture. It feels like it kind of needs to change. Like, Rune is not the same asset that it was like a couple years ago when the network was launching, that just kind of like necessitated this.
But Kenton, you can okay, I'll go. All right. So, I've been an LP for the longest time, ChaosNet. And LPing for me was actually quite lucrative in the very beginning. Ever since we added savers and synth leverage, I mean, it just really went off a hill. So this is what my mind does. I think two ways of doing this. Okay. Either, and they both work, I think. Right now, as you say, Cal, POL consists of most of the liquidity in the pools, or at least, Bitcoin. You could transition to a POL system primarily, and LPs could be deprecated. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't force them out of the pools because they're still subject to the synth leverage. Or how I think of it is, because you rightly say that the pendulum does not work, because with secured assets, the pendulum is not going to swing as it would have, because it's no longer just a direct relationship between security and the liquidity providers. What you could do is you take that pendulum and you fix it. I don't know what the ratio would be. Let's just say you do 50-50. Okay. What happens then? Well, LPs kind of have a different deal, right? Relative to node operators and bond providers. A bond provider, in my opinion, has far less risk when it comes to the assets. There's no permanent loss, blah, 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 blah. They earn rune on their rune, things of that nature. LPs, they're subject to that. And so let's say Rujira, which I firmly believe will be, is absolutely massive, and you have huge amounts of liquidity. Then the market will find a sweet spot if you locked it at 50% of how much LP people would do that. Because let's say LPs, like the ones that are skittish, are like, man, I don't like impermanent loss, they leave, the pool shrinks. And I think we should keep POL in there anyway, by the way. But the pool rings. But then there's going to be a certain point where there's tons of rewards going to the pools and people deploy their liquidity there. You could do it that way. I don't know. But one thing I want to make sure we do is the best we can is take care of the LPs that have been there for 2021. And I mean, we're not going to force anyone, obviously, but make the rune price go up. And so that the synth leverage, that's better. And then they can, if they choose to withdraw safely. So from my mind, I'll try and, I'm sorry, I was long-winded on this. Either do POL or do some maybe concentrated liquidity model. I don't know enough about that to have an informed opinion on the V3 stuff. Or you fix that pendulum and you make it static. I don't know what you guys think about that. That's what my mind does.
Yeah,
Kenton, you want to say anything?
Let's say, I think it needs to change too. To what? I don't know, because like I think THORChain Bull was saying just send 0 rewards to the pools, if I understood him correctly, because he feels like it's going to be all order books, and I tend to agree, because it's just order books, just more capital efficient, right? You don't have to worry about a permanent loss. But if there's any benefit of the THORFi stuff, is that now we've got all this POL, right? We've got these. Well, I forget how much is it. Is it 100 million in the pools owned by the protocol?
No, definitely not. How much we have in the pools? 60 million total. Let's call it 75% is POL. So I don't know, 35, 40 million in POL.
Okay. So like, I mean, that's acting as a buyer of last resort, right? So like, let's say when markets crash, like when you see the 2008 crash and stock markets crash, it's because market makers are all pulling their bids. They're all withdrawing their limit orders, and those limit order books dry up. They go, and then you get these huge spreads, right? There's huge gaps, and then that's why markets crash. Whereas with an AMM, you've got this always on constant market maker, and now it's owned by the protocol. It is never ever withdrawing. It's there. It's for good. So it can act as a backstop, so that when these market makers are all using the order books on THORChain, if they all pull their bids for whatever reason, we can still rely on the AMM. It's acting as that buyer seller of last resort. And so I think it's great to keep it. But then, if we do keep it, then how do we deal with impermanent loss? Like, it's got to make some kind of money. So it's not just because impermanent loss could just keep grinding it down, right? It's got to get some fees. So in that sense, I like the idea of keeping it. I do like the idea of at least offering the users to pool if they want. It's a free market. If somebody wants to pool, let them. So from that, in that scenario, I would like to, get rid of the synth leverage and, just have the pools just be regular so that they're easier to understand like any other liquidity pool. And then, if we are going to rely on order books, do we need to even waste our time with concentrated liquidity, a V3 style pool? I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things that, yeah, it's a nice to have, but just, whenever we have time type thing. But if we are relying more on these order books, which are eating up secured assets, taking up that space, we do need the fees to be weighted towards the nodes and bond providers to keep the nodes high.
Yeah,
right?
because what I
We
worry
need
about
yield
is
there.
if Rune goes way up, and then all of a sudden nodes are getting no rewards. That's like, everything goes to LPs, but the LPs is like mostly the system itself. Just seems weird that would happen, but that's like the way the system is configured currently. So I don't know.
Right.
Just something to think about.
Right.
Nothing that we need to do
Well,
right
Yeah.
now, but also like some of these LPs that don't have synth leverage, like the XRP pool, USDT on Binance Smart Chain. These are like really good pools, and if anyone was an LP before like THORFi stuff, like I know I was, like some of these pools are like pretty productive. Like they make quite a decent chunk of change. It's just like the exacerbated impermanent loss is like really what killed it. So, yeah.
right. And then also, how my mind thinks of it, guys, is we ultimately have to decide, do we want LPs or not, right? Like, do you go to a system where you have almost like all POL, and then you kick the rewards mostly to the nodes, and then maybe you have like a siphon system where you take a percentage of the total rewards and you just make constant liquidity adds to the pools to deepen them as necessary, and then that's configurable by Mimir. But son of a bitch, what was I going to say? Shit, I lost it. Damn it. This is so complicated. What was I going to say? It was good too. Also, we also have this. Don't we have it where we made a recent vote where we have an arbitrary slant towards the nodes, right? Kenton, if I'm not mistaken, like right now, rewards are a little node heavy because the thinking was we want nodes to make more money so that more Rune gets sucked into the bond providers and the nodes themselves to increase the Rune price to help the LPs, right? I think that was the thinking.
Well, actually, so it's sort of that, but it was more like us excluding the trade assets. So we're like not counting some of the assets that we're custodying. So they were counted previously, but they're not being counted now because they're not part of the pool. So as part of the incentive pendulum, we only consider the pools and the security instead of all of the assets that we're custodying.
But isn't what Patriot's talking about?
Choices.
Didn't we already tweak these? We did tweak the incentive pendulum a few months ago. We changed the
Right.
instead of measuring effective security is total security or vice versa.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yes, forgot about that.
Yeah, and which did weigh further towards nodes. So that's what you're referring to, right, Patriot?
That is correct. Yes, yeah. And so it's like we have to choose our vision here. Do we want to go with LPs, which I think works? I really do think that works because, guys, I did really well. My Litecoin LP was just banging, right? I mean, Sabers, unfortunately, it just really ended it. I saw nothing but red after that, unfortunately. But with the original, like the OG liquidity system, it worked great for me. I just know everyone's really jaded, but my argument would be, and this is just me speaking from experience, that it worked. Like I was an LP and I was happy and I was green a lot. This was 2021, 2022, and then, Sabers. And then it was nothing but teeth grinding after that.
Yeah.
So, I just, it could go either way. I mean, I love that my LPs, I want to make sure I take care of them. But do we go LP? Do we keep the model? Which I think it works. But if we do that, my opinion is we have to lock the incentive pendulum. And then after that, we just go all out, ham out for volume. But I really like the POL. The POL is a godsend as the LP of last resort. I think Kenton's right on that. So I think either model works, honestly. I just don't know which one's optimal. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean,
because
to me, it kind of feels like at this point, like we just ship limit orders and see where we're at. Like, we check it another 6 months, and then, if things, and that's what we've always done, right? It's like if things are broken, like we go and fix it. Like right now, nothing's broken, but it's just like one of those things that's like, all right, well, all of us know this doesn't really feel 100% right, but it's like nothing's broken, so it's like, and there's also nothing that we can't just change the parameters on to do a fix if we needed to. Like if nodes are just like atrophying because, I mean, this is also in the case that Rune is quite high, so maybe this isn't really even a problem. Like maybe I'm just like kind of making this up, and that's like maybe best case scenario is like, oh man, boohoo, the node rewards are so low because Rune is so high. But it's like, all right, maybe that's a good problem to have at that point, and we could just solve it. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, I just wanted to like bring it up.
Yeah, and you know what? I should mention. I'm sorry, Kenton. I am partial to trying Maya protocols design. I know a lot of the concerns was double dipping, but having LPs been able to bond their liquidity units, then ubiquitizes the reward income for them, right? Like because an LP, which kind of sucks. If I'm a Bitcoin, Bitcoin pool's always banging, but let's say I'm an AVAX LP, right? If there's no swaps and there's arbitrage, there's bots, and that's one thing. But if there's not a lot of juice on to be squeezed, then you don't get a lot of rewards. But by being able to bond LP units, that ubiquitizes the income for LPs and makes it better. Because if let's say it's a heavy Bitcoin swap day, as it usually is, well then at least the LP on the other side is getting something. So that model I think actually works. But again, I'll let it go.
Well, I don't want to speak for TCB, but I'm pretty sure this is his point, is that, it's if the V2 liquidity model worked, then all these other players wouldn't be moving away from it, right? With V3, concentrated, like now I guess there's a V4 coming out, intense, that's, order books, if you think about V3, the concentrated liquidity is kind of like trying to introduce an order book on a liquidity pool. So if this is where the market is moving, we should move too, right? We should move towards that as well, and not worry or rely so much on the V2 liquidity model, and we should move forward with everybody else.
Yeah.
What just?
Sorry, just one last thought, and then I'll hop off around this. So yeah, I do hear what you're saying. So the reason why these uni pools exist in the first place is because you can't build a decentralized order book on Ethereum, or really a decentralized order book, period, from at least all the dev friends that I have that have said that. So that's the reason why, we couldn't just move to an additional order book and then just call it a day there. So that's just one point around it. But also it's really nice to have really deep pools of Rune. Rune is one of the most liquid crypto assets, period, which is kind of crazy. So it's it's a big strength that's there, and that's kind of why I like the approach, just keep iterating on top. And it is kind of a Jenga tower in some case, in some respects, but we'll put limit orders on, we'll see where we're at, and we'll just keep iterating. Maybe we add V3 on top. Maybe we can just keep iterating and just seeing nothing's broken. So it's just all right, we just got to get better pricing. But we need to keep the core decentralized too. So if it's if you have the order book at the core, is it still the same network that it was before? And maybe that's okay, but we need to keep it decentralized too. So if that's not possible, that's the core of the whole thing. So if that's not decentralized, then the network isn't really worth much anyway. But yeah,
just go back to
the asset has changed a lot since the beginning. Rune is very different than it was a couple years ago. I think everyone can see that. I definitely see it. So
yeah, I just want to address your Jenga tower analogy. It only really becomes a Jenga tower if we're introducing leverage and if these features aren't individually are fine, it doesn't expose the protocol to any systemic risk, then we can keep adding them on top of each other, and the tower should be strong, right? It's only if we start introducing some kind of funny business in the features that require this or that to happen, then it starts making it unstable. But in my mind, if we have a few different ways to interact with liquidity on THORChain, it should actually make it more stable because we're addressing different parts of the market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't mean Jenga tower as in like the infragile sense. I meant more of just stack shit on top of each other, and then it works though. It's like don't break the V2 liquidity model. Just put limit orders on top, which kind of satisfies sort of what Unity 3 does, just in a different. It's like different implementation of the same thing, but it's like we have that flexibility because we have our own chain. So it's like we can experiment a little bit more, but it's like not moving to a direct order book or direct V3. Maybe that comes in the future. Maybe we still can't compete, and then we got to do that too. But it's like there's a lot of other solutions that are being tried in different ways. So it's like I don't see the the feet to the fire type thing of like, yeah, we need to do something right now. I don't think you guys do either. I don't think anyone does really. I think that things are on a good path right now, and I hope this just like communicated that to everybody. Like things are solid. People are shipping. We got good things to look forward to. New chains, faster block times. Just general bug fixes, outbound fee improvements. And then just on the flip side, more integrations, like, the stuff that we've always done. And then, of course, like Ruji shipping stuff. Like, I'm really excited about lending, especially. And, like, one thing I didn't touch on at all is that, like, I think swaps are cool, but, like, at the end of the day, nobody cares about swaps. Like, let's be real. Like, people that are into crypto, they don't really want to trade. They're traders, but, like, a lot of us, they, would much rather borrow than trade. And, like, that's just evidenced by, like, how big Aave is and, how well, like, like, look at Morpho on Coinbase and stuff like that. Like, they're absolutely killing it. So it's like we have this big decentralized custody framework. Let's do some cool DeFi stuff. None of this, like, THORFi fuckery. Let's get back to it and keep shipping some real DeFi. So that's why I'm super bullish on Ruji, because they're able to just, like, lightning speed ship. And, yeah, Hans is the GOAT. And, yeah, we're gonna get there. So
well, let me ask you this, Cal. Then, okay, we have a traditional lending product on THORChain, and it's a huge hit, it's a huge success. I agree. THORChain, it's always been my view of THORChain. It's going to be the most secure custodian in the world, and that there's a lot of value to that. But for me, one of the reasons I think is so secure is that economic security, the bond. And it's been a long going debate about removing the hard cap so we can scale, right? If we've got all this demand for, maybe we have $1 billion in demand for deposits for loans, can we secure that with 100 million bond? What do you think? Should we remove the hard cap completely and just go hog wild? Let the buyer beware. THORChain should be fine. We're decentralized enough. The nodes aren't going to do anything. Do you think it should be a metered approach? Maybe still increase the cap? Yeah. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're at. Is the metered direction where it's like we have a ton of room right now. Maybe in the future we don't, and it's just kind of like reevaluate when we get there. And I think if we get there, then it'll be like a no-brainer. Let's increase it. Like let's keep going. And I think that the network is 100% decentralized enough to custody a lot more than it does today. Like I don't think there's much of a problem with that. It's more just like I'm much more worried about like security stuff, like a bug that you can drain funds out of the pool or something like that. Not that I think that there's something like that exists, but like I'm much more worried about that type of thing than like node operator collusion or the theoretical scenario of someone buying up a bunch of Rune, bonding a bunch of nodes to do it. Like I would like to see us, raise the bond cap, as in like more than 120 nodes. We scale that up a bit. We get more nodes, that more node operators. It's really more node operators, because more nodes doesn't actually do anything. It just more because if someone's running, if it's the same 5 people running 20 nodes versus everyone running 1 node each, it's the same. So there's some bigger operators in the network. There's a lot of really small operators in the network. If I knew who they all were, it wouldn't be taking me this goddamn long to get this min fee vote through. I have no idea. Like there's nobody that can control any of this stuff. Like it's pretty clear that this is a decentralized network, and just one of the most decentralized networks in general, and as it should be, because it actually custodies real assets. It's the most secure decentralized custodian. So yeah, I think we should just custody more assets on the chain. Like I think that there's a mix. I like the node culture too. It's like there's doxed entities, like there's 9 realms. Obviously, we run some nodes. There's other entities who are semi-doxed. I don't think that there's anyone who could even try and attempt to do this without going to prison, or someone finds out who they are, or whatever. Like I just don't think we're at the scale. I think we're already at that scale where that's not really possible if someone were to try that type of attack. And if we scale up the node community even more, and especially just by making it more attractive to bond rune and that type of thing, like, yeah, I think it just kind of becomes like a no-brainer to just keep increasing that cap. So I think, yeah, you always keep like the caps on it to keep it from the system from like, yeah, okay, we can't custody $1 trillion, but even if there were $1 trillion in there, like, I don't see how you could steal that in a credible way that you could actually get away with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Yep. Especially the yields are high, right? And that's giving you incentive not to do it.
Yeah, and I think if there's $1 trillion in the lending protocol, like how much yield is coming off into the bond? That's like, they're paying some APY on that. Like, it's not just free security. Yeah, I mean, if it's just zombie assets that we're custodying, sure, but like the assets on the network are productive. Like, they're producing some type of yield. So I think while it's not directly as correlated as it was before, with just like, it's just the AMM and that's the only thing that's on the chain, like, it is in some way still correlated, like, and not as directly, but there is some correlation. And I don't think we're ever going to run into a scenario where it's like sub-dollar rune, 40 billion of of like lending assets, and like, JP trying to convince Nine Realms to collude to run off with the money. Like, I don't ever see that scenario happening or anything like it.
I agree. I don't see that happening, particularly since I've met Nine Realms, many of the guys, yourself included, in real life. You're all just absolutely stellar human beings. And man, I know you said you had to go like 20 minutes ago, and we're just keep asking you questions. But dude, thank you so much for coming up. And man, just hearing your voice, because you have such you have such good knowledge about what's going on, and you have really good reasons for what you're proposing, man. Obviously, you're a busy guy, and we want the devs deving. But man, if you want to ever come back and ever speak your mind, please do, because you just saying all what you said during this space, I think just goes a long way to make the community feel good, because a lot of questions I get is just like, hey, what's Nine Realms doing? Like, there's ambiguity there. And I talk with Nine Realms a little bit, I talk with you a little bit, but I'm not in the team like you are. So dude, again, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. I appreciate it, and it's a blessing having you here.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thank you so much for running this space. Yeah, if it's not weekend, not evening, which is like maybe the hardest thing to ask for from a lot of people who like don't work in this industry. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to like put in all my time into this, because it already sucks up most of my time. So whatever free time I have left, I'm trying to chill. So I'm still around. I always read the discourse. I know what's going on. I'm tapped in. So if you guys are listening to the space, then you're tapped in too. So yeah, I mean, subscribe to us on the RSS feeds. It's on Spotify. It's on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever. So it's THORChain Weekly Live. And thanks for uploading all that stuff, by the way. And yeah, let's get it.
You're welcome, buddy. And yeah, thank you so much. And if you ever want to come and do a space, just let me or Kenton know, and we'll make one happen. Doesn't matter what day of the week. We will make sure your voice and your opinions get out there, brother.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I can just host one myself too. You guys don't have to worry about it. But cool, guys. All right, no, I really, really do appreciate it. All right, catch you guys later.
Thanks, Kyle.
Take care, buddy.
With the Coke, and I give you a hand up. I hope you weren't waiting to talk to Cal. I don't know if he just left.
No, I'm still here. Yeah, I was waiting to speak to him, but it's okay. No, it's okay, because it doesn't matter. If you get the questions out to community, that's all that matters. So I don't know, since I was trying to speak to him, I will speak to you guys and the community. I think he is kind of, now he cannot defend himself, but I think he's underestimating the power of the front end, power of us trying to promote ourselves, especially when the token price is low. And the THORChain is a unique like a project, unique protocol. When it's like a SUI or ETH, like people can come on top of there. Okay, now we have now Rujira and Rujira Alliance, and you can go testnet and dev there. But the thing is that I don't want to say that we alienated like the retail users, but I think the way that the business is set up, like business to business kinda, we have all those like affiliate type of stuff that going on, and it's mainly like for the wallets, not for the users. I
Yeah,
think
I think one thing.
we're missing out a lot of this realtor power that could help.
Well,
That we have so many people that are active, passionate, and we just every day we come on X, we make our post, we like say like, hey, this is going good, that is going good. Look, upgrading this, we these upgrades are coming, and then we get flooded from the post like, oh, token price is down, like, oh, Torify this, like we lack of those like kind of tools to engage people like, hey, come to our front end, use this. Like bonding is I feel like it's kind of like a issue as well. It's a little bit complex for a everyday user to come in, get the yield, be happy. That's the only point that I wanted to voice for the familiar gal, that we should be more uh, even if you don't want to make all the small fees happen, because there's not a lot of like money behind there's not APY behind all those small fees. We want to make sure we have the good balance between the covering the most of the decentralized swaps, but also keep in mind that we don't want to undercut us. But what we definitely want to have is all those soldiers, all those users that is going to promote THORChain and have tools to come and get the part of this APY. And I think we're kind of like missing this. We are missing front end, and we're missing easy bonding. That's what I at least see.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think you're preaching to the choir as far as me and Patriot are concerned. But we've got THORSwap up as a speaker, and I just saw their headline on their THORChain front end. I haven't had a chance to read the article or post or anything. I don't know if the THORSwap, if you want to jump up and talk, maybe you have some thoughts you want to add to this.
It's just paper on the THORSwap account.
Hey, Paper.
Hey, Paper. I haven't talked to you in a while, buddy.
I figured Cal, rare guest, so I'll definitely let him have his opportunity to chat with the community. But thanks for the shout out. I guess it's prevalent to the previous topic you guys were talking about in terms of needing a front end to really showcase what everything THORChain is capable of. And I mean, we've been building with the community since single chain chaosnet, so definitely heard all the feedback. And I would say the team and we just did a few more all-nighters, and we just launched THORSwap Rune Edition. So yeah, open for feedback, but essentially what it is, it's a dedicated THORChain interface built for the Rune community, and obviously any users who want to try out THORChain. So it's got all of the features that we've built over the years for THORChain. And we've also, I think a big part of it is obviously showcasing what THORChain is capable of, and as well as highlighting Rune. So, we're open to a lot of feedback, right? But something we did obviously is have Bitcoin Rune be the default pair, and we are making it 50% off our fees for buying Rune and TCY. That also stacks with our referral program, which in case you didn't know, we're the first to build the THORChain referral program, which taps into the multi-affiliate system of THORChain. So essentially, you can generate your own referral link. So it could be rune.thorswap.finance, or that's the link to the Rune edition, by the way. And you could encourage users to try out THORChain, and you would also earn 20 to 40% of commissions on the fees. Or you can pass on the discounts to the user, which will stack with the price of cheaper fee on buying Rune and TCY. So yeah, open to a lot of feedback from the community on whether this is something that you guys feel is useful to showcase THORChain and all the features. And we've added links to Rune Bond, Rune tools, a bunch of really great community tools in the menu as well. But yeah, we just launched it, so definitely open to a lot of feedback. And yeah, thanks for that.
That's awesome. And I know Leo Dex also, I think on the previous 2 spaces ago or something, they had talked about doing something like that similar as well. So I really think that's great. To talk about something with the Coke's head, because one thing I want to defend Cal a little bit is when he was thinking interface, he was coming from the mindset that it's a lot of wallet maintenance. He's talking like a full throttle, full throated interface, and that's a lot of work. Like Leodex, THORSwap, InstaSwap, I'm seeing all of our friends, they do a lot of work. And when I think about an interface for THORChain specifically, that's why in my mind I say just keep it really simple, like doing something with like Memless, and that way we don't cut into the feature set of other interfaces that want to also have those things. So the way I think about it is near to me there exists a Coca-Cola manufacturer, okay? And, Coca-Cola, obviously, they manufacture that and they send it to all the stores and people buy the stores. And then there's a premium there. If you go to the manufacturer place, you can buy Coca-Cola there and it's considerably cheaper. But of course, the inconvenience of driving there, and then you only can have Coca-Cola, right? But you get a price premium for only getting Coca-Cola there. You obviously can't buy any other soda. You can't buy any groceries, obviously, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of how I think of Memless, right? It's very simple. We have a simple product, and, whether it's, feeless, which I think is fine, whatever you want to do, that's kind of why I want to make the interface just something very simple that you can point someone to. They can get a swig of Coca-Cola, right? And then maybe if they want to try some other products, then they go to Leodex, THORSwap, Edge Wallet, InstaSwap, Thor Wallet, whatever it is, right? That's kind of where my mind goes. That way we're on-ramping people, but when people want to do specific things, they want to get deeper into the weeds, then they have a means to do that. They go to interfaces. So it's, for me, one thing I want to make absolutely clear is my idea is to make everyone more money, get on-ramp new blood into our system, and then these people eventually gravitate.
If you listen to the recording, we got the other space dropped. We got dropped on us, so we're just started another one here. I don't know if we can keep the same momentum going or not. We'll see if people see who comes back. Give everybody a minute to join. People are waiting for people to come. If you guys are listening to these spaces and you think of like topics that you want us to cover, give us a shout out. Let us know. Post it. If you're a project or developer and you want to come up, you have something you want to say or share with the community, reach out to us. Let us know. We want content, right? We want subjects. We want things to talk about, and it's for you too, right? The listeners, right? We want to give you guys what you want to hear. So, give us some feedback, some ideas, what you want to hear. And then, same with guests, like maybe, you can help us get connected with some people to come up. That'd be great. Are you there, Patriot? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I was in the middle of transitioning to co-host, so it wouldn't let me speak until its brain figured it out.
Gotcha. I hope THORSwap comes back.
Yeah, gosh dang it. And I really wanted to give them more time to talk about that. The random rugs are so unfortunate,
Yeah, no, exactly.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Everyone has this problem. It's nothing to do with the TC intern. I've seen it. I've attended a million spaces with XRPers. We had one drop 4 times in a row, and it's just, there's nothing you can do. So,
yeah.
It'll
give.
Yeah, it sucks because you. Yeah. Well, I want to. I don't know if you remember what I was saying about. Does that make sense? What I was saying about think of it as like the manufacturer of Coke, buying a Coke there, and then just getting someone the experience. And then we're getting more users overall, like getting new blood into the ecosystem. Does that make sense, or did you have any disagreements with that? I'm just curious.
I actually do disagree with you. Sorry, buddy.
That's fine.
I want the THORChain front end to have all the wallets, have all the functionality. Yeah, everything we can.
But
Yeah,
the thing with that though is who maintains it, right?
I know that. Yeah,
And that would take away from the Nine Realms team, right?
no, it
If they
doesn't.
were
No, that's what's so frustrating with that criticism. Everyone just assumes it's going to be non-realms. Like, why can't we hire someone else?
right, but then how do you choose, right? Like that's the
Well,
thing. Like don't you
how do you
that you
hire
would risk?
anybody?
I understand. I understand what you're saying, but then you could also make the argument, why don't we choose an interface that already has everything, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, is this a decision? Like the governance here is very important. Okay. Like I hate politics. I hate the human angle, it's the diplomatic thing, but bringing a whole new team to do this, which is fine in theory, but then you also have to consider the ramifications of how the other interfaces will interpret that. I know it doesn't seem important from a business perspective, but in a decentralized system with a community that is really like interwoven, interlinked, it can have profound ramifications. You know
Well, I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
I do know what you're saying, and I think you're talking about the boogeyman. So let me give you a real world, real life conversation I had. I was talking to the business development guy at Trust Wallet to promote and market THORChain through Trust Wallet. Right, this is what I've been working on the last few months, and we went back and forth a few times, and like they can't guarantee us the route because the way Trust Wallet works, they just send the cheapest route. THORChain isn't the only route they have now, right? They've introduced SwapKit and Rango Exchange, and so I talked to them. I said, you know what? It's just too messy and cumbersome to try and promote THORChain through Trust Wallet. I don't think it's going to work, but thanks for your time and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I tell him, I think it makes more sense for THORChain to have our own front end and promote that. Do you have a problem with that? And he's like, well, I'm not going to put your website in Trust Wallet. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm asking. We're just going to have our own front end like Uniswap, and we'll just do our own marketing for that. He's like, yeah, I don't care. They do what you want. And then I'm like, are you sure? Because I went and I said, look, you have Rango Exchange on your route. I took them to rangoexchange.com. I'm like, a front end like this. See, it says connect, and then there's Trust Wallet. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you have a problem with that? He's like, no, I don't care. He's like, well, he's like responding to me like, why are you asking me these questions? Like I'm retarded. Like he's like,
Right. I understand.
like his audience are his Trust Wallet users, right? So like he doesn't care if THORChain has its own front end without promoting it. That has nothing to do with Trust Wallet.
Right. That's fair, but that's kind of a separate thing, right? Because the thing with having an own front end is you have to have people who actually understand the nuances of the community and things like that in order to do like a good job. Like it's hard to just make like a front end and then just like it's so much work, right? It's a lot involved there. The thing that
Well,
the thing that I get
let
is
me
like
stop you. Let me stop you. Let me stop you. Leo Dex just made one for us for free.
no, I understand. I understand.
And I
Let me just.
well, no, but everyone, but it's
I thought
something
it wasn't
new.
time.
It's always, it's so hard and difficult and impossible. It's just different. It's just new.
Okay.
It's not hard and impossible.
No. You don't understand what I'm saying. So there is maintenance involved, right? So okay, let's work out the details because let me tell you where my brain's coming from. If you have an interface and it takes a lot of maintenance, right? Obviously it will, no big deal. That's not a problem. I concede that, okay? But then we can't really make it feeless unless there is some like where does the revenue come from? Like how do we compensate these developers, right? So like there's just a lot of narratives going around of how do you actually make an interface that is sustainable and reliable and can stand on its own 2 feet, or is this something that's going to be I don't know, some it's funds have to come from somewhere. So you see what I'm saying? Like it's either like there's a lot of different, like we have an interface that's feeless or as cheap as possible, whatever, or you have like a full like interface DeFi suite, ground up, built up, all the different wallet connections. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. Again, I'm going to come back. Somebody has a question that say it can be done. There is there wrong. I've already talked to JP about this. Like the Treasury is going to pay for it, and it's not this exorbitant a cost that everybody thinks it is. I've like this is what I'm being told is that the cost is very reasonable and very palatable and very digestible. Like we're talking thousands of dollars a month type thing. Like it's not like $1 million to run this website. So like I think it's really kind of blowing out of proportion how much this is going to cost and like the developer time to support it. I'm not taking away from other front ends and the work they do. Everybody works hard. But I mean, it can be done, right? It's just a question of price. And I've got JP's on board. He's like, yeah, we're doing this, right? We just gotta figure out the people and the cost. But it's not some crazy ridiculous, it's going to cost $1 million a year and we can't afford it. No, that's not it at all. It's just finding the right people. It's not the price. It's going to be the problem. It's going to be finding the right people. And it's like anything else in life. We got to talk to people, interview them. Find someone. But that should have to suggest THORChain hiring some more devs to work on their website is going to somehow piss off other interfaces is actually I feel like is the most ridiculous thing to suggest. And if that is true, that's a toxic relationship that THORChain should not want to have. So yeah, I think that's a completely wrong way to look at it.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not being hopefully not overly worried about the human side of it, because ultimately it's just business. We both agree we need a front end, 100%. And the sooner we get one, the better. Because for me, I think we're really limiting ourselves with our growth and potential and on ramping of new users. So that's fine. I'm okay with that, and that's actually I didn't know that about. So I'm glad you actually said that about the cost runs and things like that. So yeah, I think. Host. Let's try just you hosting. Maybe that'll help. It could be, Kenton or myself being the problem. I don't know. We'll just do speakers. Keep it simple because this won't be a long space. Gosh dang it, you guys. We can't have a meaningful conversation. Definitely didn't want to end it there because, we're just getting in the meat and potatoes. We're going to try and wrap up this conversation because X spaces are obviously very unstable today. So, if we want to get Paper X, we invited him to come up and then it died right there. I don't know why. So, we want to make sure that we don't limit the communication here at all. It's an interesting conversation. So definitely want to make sure that we allow anyone to voice their opinion on this matter. It's very important. Definitely don't want to leave it there. So sorry guys for the big pain today. You know how X spaces are. It's unbelievable.
There's Paper X.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we'll get Paper X up here, and then Kenton's going to rejoin here shortly. Yeah, you can't just be in the middle of a dialogue like that and just cut it off. So, but yeah, we're going to try and keep it short, guys. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Compliments to the intern for fast response. Kudos.
Yeah, the intern's awesome. We love the intern. All right, we'll get Kenton. Paper X, if you want to request again or send an invite. Sorry, guys. It's just, how it is with X Spaces. I'm just glad we got a FamiliarCow section was all steady and streamlined, and that was all one solid 2 hours. That was great. So you got to be thankful for what you can get. Hey, buddy, can you just tell me you can hear me, right? Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Just waiting for you guys. Says we're having connection issues. Well, guys, okay, if we drop again, this will be the last one. So let me just say, If it drops, we will continue this conversation again. We're actively figuring it out in real time. I don't know why. I mean, X spaces are so buggy. I want to make sure we are not censoring anybody. I mean, we want anyone to speak on this. I mean, I don't even think Kenton's having a struggle coming up here right now. So I don't know what it is. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Yeah, Kenton says he's requested. I see his message. So yeah, you guys know how it is. But yeah, no worries, guys. We're gonna talk about this issue. We'll have more dialogue in the future. I'm definitely partial to what Kenton is saying. I agree with him. I just want to make sure that what we do definitely just makes sense. We get community input from everybody. I'm not like a communist or anything when it comes to emotions or sentiments. I believe in decisive action, but I definitely want people to be heard. That's just a necessary thing to upkeep, because when you have such a diverse community like ours with so many different teams, it's important to just keep everyone united as much as possible. And that's at the end of the day what we do these spaces. We keep the dialogue going. We make sure that all parties are represented. Sometimes we have some awkward moments.